didn't even say, and I was
Oh,
like,
I must have missed it.
That's what I mean. It
Did
was
you see
like-
it?
There was,
Should we have a replay of
I
it?
noticed at least 3 different energies there going snap, 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 snap. I hadn't seen anybody change from energies that quickly for quite some time. It was like flipping
Yeah.
through.
you're right.
So yeah, it was hard to connect to which energy I was talking to at the time.
Mhm. Because she had like, sometimes you acted very passionate about what you were saying, and then she was withdrawn from what you were saying. So, and it would happen within seconds.
Right.
It was
yeah.
just like you said,
Well,
it was quick.
I was rather confused, but next time I speak with her, I won't be so confused.
That's her quirky, interesting
Right,
personality.
right. Everybody's got their own thing.
That's
and,
right.
I have mine, I've tried to maintain some semblance of sanity for all these years, and I can fake it pretty well. So.
I enjoyed what you were saying about if you pay taxes, you would want to be able to say where you wanted your
Yeah,
taxes to
right.
go. It just makes a lot of sense. You know, everything else we pay in life, we get to pick. That's right.
Right. If I can pay for schools or medical centers or roads, certainly, but I'm not going to pay for bombs.
Mhm.
I'm not going to pay for prisons, especially the privately owned prisons. No one wants to do that. And the drug war, of course, is something I've been raging against for decades.
Well, it's
And,
really the person's want or need or responsibility. If they want to do drugs, then it's their.
Right. Well, I don't advocate drug use by any means, but
But I think
The
it's
art-
everybody's
yeah.
individual.
right. Well, when they make something illegal, it artificially increases the price, 10,000%. And if a junkie has a $200 a day habit, when the reality is that the heroin that he's doing is worth $2 instead of $200, who's going to be out prostituting themselves or breaking into your cars or your houses or robbing you or mugging you or what have you, or being a gangster, trading weapons for drugs? Who's going to do that if the heroin is only $2 a day instead of $200? So they're creating this whole side game of crime by criminalizing this thing. Well, everybody should have learned that from the prohibition of alcohol. They saw the rise of, crime, organized crime, and it seems like, more people went to the speakeasies than would have, if it hadn't, And of course, the end result, they also, I mentioned the methamphetamine as being our bathtub gin of our generation. Back then, people were mixing up, the bathtub gin, which, could have been turpentine, could have been this, could have been that. People were going blind and dying from the stuff that they were selling on the streets. And, methamphetamine is basically the same thing, though it was created by the Nazis.
It's 100 times worse.
Yeah, I mean, it's a
You can get over
speed-
bathtub gin if it don't kill you. You can't ever get over meth.
Right.
I heard it described as the most addictive substance on the planet, like your dopamine, the chemical and your feel-good chemical in your brain goes up like 1,000 times. That's what it does. And you just never, once that happens a few times, nothing is ever any good anymore, because that's what your body releases to make you feel good, and you never
You're
really
never
recover.
satisfied anymore or with anything else.
That's
I wonder do they even know what the long range effects are? I mean, has it been around long enough for
Well,
that?
actually, the Germans in Nazi Germany developed it originally to give to their fighters and their pilots, and then the Americans quickly, started dosing their pilots because they're in the air 14 hours back or whatever.
Oh my.
So I understand they still use that kind of drug.
I don't
for
think
pilots.
that's the same thing though.
But it was methamphetamine that the Nazis created. Now, of course, it's made out of Drano and Sudafed or something, or
Yeah,
however they do it.
yeah, I
but-
think that was speed. That was an amphetamine, but this is
Yeah.
different
Yeah.
than a speed. They may call it the same thing, but I don't think it was the same drug. That just hyped you up. This stuff destroys you almost
Right.
immediately.
Yeah, who could tell back then, though? A lot of those people got destroyed immediately anyway.
But
Yeah.
this stuff, you see
No.
people that's doing it, man, their bodies look.
Right, they
This
have
is good.
open weeping sores
Flat.
and teeth falling out.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's
And
pretty
I think that happens quickly.
Yeah.
Once they're on it.
But there again, if things were legal, purity and pharmaceutical qualities of the drugs. And I guess that's another thing when they made heroin and morphine illegal in the 30s. suddenly there was overdoses where there hadn't been before because people are selling this drug, and cutting it down with baby powder or baking soda or whatever. So one day somebody buys, a dime bag and it's 40% pure. The next day they buy this dime bag, it's 40% pure, and the next day they buy this dime bag, it's 80% pure. So that bam, you're dead. You're overdosed. When it was pure, everybody knew their dosage.
I see.
And so when it's cut with something, you don't know if you're getting 20%, 40%, 100%. Who can say until they, overdose and die. And, they actually say that, or I heard it said anyway, that Janis Joplin did not die of a heroin overdose, that her heroin was cut with quinine, and the quinine with the alcohol in her bloodstream created an embolism. And so her blood, vessels burst, but it wasn't from the heroin, it was from the quinine that the heroin was cut
Was
with.
in it.
That's what I hear anyway. Whether that's true or not is anybody's
I
guess.
heard something similar to that.
Who's that?
Janis Joplin. It wasn't a heroin overdose. It was, Oh.
Try that. Awesome.
Oh.
And I have more in over here.
Well, there's that old saying that bread and water can be so easily made into tea and toast.
Is that an old saying?
Yes, indeed. It's one of those things that they put on the wall of your kitchen, right next to the kitchen witch, probably. Or, Bill Coleman.
Kitchen witch, I haven't thought of that in years.
Oh.
My grandmother had one in her, yeah.
I've heard of that. What is that?
It's this little witch on a broom that hangs in your kitchen,
Yeah.
and it's supposed to, look over it helps you cook, and it's kind of magical. A nice witch.
And it's a really funny thing to find in a good Christian home is to have a kitchen witch.
Well, was it like a pet rock?
Oh, no, it's a kitchen
No,
witch. It was
no.
like having a troll in your garden,
Oh, okay.
or something. You put
Like
it.
a little good luck charm hanging on your wall.
Yeah.
It was a witch.
Take over the show, honey.
Do you know that?
We're
Take
lacking
over a seat.
leadership.
Good.
I'm eating bread.
I've never seen
You've never seen that?
A
There-
kitchen witch?
The
Okay.
one that my grandmother had was about this tall, and she was the wicked looking witch. She had a big wart on her nose, like a typical witch, and she was on a little broom, and she hung it in her kitchen, and she said that helped her when she made her pies. I don't know if it helped with other things, but that particular witch helped with the pies.
the pie witch.
Yeah.
She'd always burn the roast beef, but she made a heck of a good pie. Well, there was a kid's book that was out when I was young, and it was called Blueberry Elf. And I believe it was this elf that lived
Sugar?
in this
I've
baking
had
of
so
this
much
aging
caffeine
couple.
and sugar today.
And at night he would come out
Mountain Dew.
and do things around the kitchen to help this old
2 liter.
couple. But they would make these pies, and
Yeah.
he really wanted a blueberry pie. But they'd make apple pies and strawberry pies and stuff. And I think he finally wrote blueberry and flour spilt on the cupboard or something like this. So they finally made the blueberry elf a blueberry pie. So I guess that was something like a kitchen witch, only it was a blueberry elf.
Not only that was better because he actually came and
Yeah, he
helped.
came and did some work. Yeah, those darn elves.
He
We
had
having
probably had
fun yet?
batteries or something.
Hey, Mark, we having fun yet?
Yes, enjoying it. It's weird. I watched this show and
Really?
thought I'd be on.
Yeah.
Pretty weird.
These guys came during the media fest. These two.
But we had been watching you quite a while before that.
Oh, yeah.
That's cool.
And I remember one you had, the woman was on there explaining crystals, and she had maybe kind of like a rainbow flag, and then she had the red ones on the red stripe.
I'll have some friends.
That might have been Joy
I want you to
Gardner.
work this thing.
Now, this one has a
I'm working too.
Try
The
this.
toaster.
Of these that need to be put on a little plate somewhere.
Okay.
Served to somebody. Make sure badges are funny.
Well, we did actually sell a bracelet last night for $30, so I had enough money to eat and drink again today.
Anybody
And after I sold the one bracelet, I packed it up because I didn't want to push my luck. This is the last time I was here. In a lot of other cities, I've been threatened with arrest or arrested for sitting on the sidewalk trying to sell my artwork,
I
and
think that would happen here, would it?
well, it
There'd be a
used
lot
to.
of
It depends.
people arrested.
It used to. And it still might. I mean, I
Stoppo
guess
City.
some of the performance artists and musicians and whatnot can get away with it, but if I'm sitting there with
Selling without a permit.
and they
Oh,
say
is that what it is?
they say I'm a vendor, and I say no, I'm an artist. I'm sitting here making the stuff even as you speak. And
Say I'm a vendor artist.
but the thing is, back in '98, November of '98, the United States Supreme Court ruled that it was an unconstitutional infringement on the rights of artists to require a license or a permit to sell or display their art in public, that this was a viable form of communication fully protected by the First Amendment
Yeah, as long as
of
you're
freedom
not
of
on someone
speech.
else's property.
Oh, now that's
So-
interesting.
So according to the Supreme Court of the United States, it's,
When was that?
November of '98. It was
November of
a
98.
court case called Laterman et al. Versus the city of New York, because a bunch of artists in New York sued the city for
Okay,
harassment.
no,
and-
is that just for New York or is that
No,
an
it's the
international?
United
that's,
States
That's a
Supreme
law.
Court, right.
So, anybody who is an artist can take their wares and
Yeah,
display them on a public street. And,
Right, exactly. And it said that the city of New York did not, promote or permit that or whatever, that the lower court was messed up, that found in the favor of the city of New York, and said that, so every city that I've been into for the last 16 years of traveling around this country has violated my civil rights by arresting me or threatening me with arrest for displaying my art. And of course, when I'm sitting there making my stuff, I have some stuff made, I have my stuff that I'm making it with. So I'm showing people how I'm doing it, what I'm doing, and I'm talking about why I'm doing it, and I'm telling stories about my own experiences and those that people I've met along the way. So I'm communicating, definitely.
Right.
Bringing about information about things, and so every time the cops come and say, get out of here, you're going to jail, they violate my rights to communicate with my fellow free American citizens, which, and I always tell folks, I was in the Marine Corps way back when, and we were sworn to uphold the Constitution of the United States from enemies from without and from within, and so for 16 years of living on the road as an act of art, I have been fighting for the Constitution with my very life from enemies within, and usually they're wearing, badges and guns, and or the people that send them out with their badges and the guns in the first place, which doesn't make me
Popular person.
popular with the people with the badges and guns, and of course when I tell them that just makes me a wise ass in their eyes, and that makes me go to jail all the quicker. So
When you know the law, it's like, okay,
right, when I know
we'll get money
You're
from
aware,
you
so you must be
somehow.
able to afford.
Right.
So there. Does that happen here?
I haven't not this trip, but I've just been back a while, and I've only sat on the street, like once trying to sell stuff, and that was last night. I sold a couple pieces at the rally around the magnolia tree and stuff, but because I'm kind of nervous about
Yes.
sitting out. Jail is not anything I'm afraid of, but it sure is an annoyance.
You're right.
Are you going up this evening
Maybe.
anywhere?
Yeah.
Because after my show, I'm gonna go up.
Yeah, well, I might.
Up to the Magnolia?
No, why is there something going on there?
I don't know where you
well,
going.
they're
Well,
sitting,
up around
yeah.
somewhere around the drum circle. I was gonna read.
The drum circle
Read
place
my
is not
cards.
good for me.
I've got to raise money.
Well, not as
I've
only
got to raise
too
money. I want to
crowded.
do a professional
Yeah.
show,
Going up,
and
yeah,
I have to
so,
pay people.
It's
Yeah,
very
You
much
gotta
too crowded, and there's always a heavy police
Right.
presence
Buying
there.
session.
that's it. That's
There's
it. I mean,
always
a sponsorship,
cop parked
donation
there,
type
they're always
of,
walking around.
educate the
And,
people. Hey, do you watch
yeah.
TV?
Unless I
Have
have to
you
deal
seen
with
this
them,
TV
better.
show? It's a public access, and we operate on
it's just-
public funds. And please support us. So, yeah, I mean, it's
Where's
just
the
a
drum
just a
circle?
way to get out there.
Circle, isn't that
Pritchard
is that
Park.
Pritchard Park?
Yeah.
The
That
one
little
over in front of, like,
triangle-shaped park up on top of the hill.
On every Friday night?
Friday night, yeah. So.
It's
after-
They keep the-
Is it? Yeah, you've been.
energetic.
I seem to always get there when it's over, but I figure, well, I'll go and try it out. And,
Everybody just kind of goes out and dances and just to the music, to the drum beat.
oh
and-
man, then I'd be all hot and sweaty, and then I
But
wouldn't.
the whole park is filled with
I wouldn't
dancers.
want to read. I'd want to play.
Yeah, our daughter's.
Oh yeah, she's gonna go there.
Well, she won't. I don't think she's going tonight, but she has gone before, and she just. That's how I figured out she was a dancer.
Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. All right.
Well, you were talking about, so you're making your bracelets and you're sitting
Right.
inside the street. Well,
Split
what
'em up, I
about,
guess.
Yeah, it's like
not
don't
just your
mind
right,
my
but what about the
manners.
rights of somebody that sees that and starts conversing with you, which isn't against the law,
Right.
and then says, would you make me one?
Right, yeah.
Then what happens?
Well, that's the thing, like, I don't have price tags on anything of mine. And sometimes I fly a sign that says Living Art in America by D. Sin, because I sign my art D, period, S-I-N-N. And it says, be art, be free. And sometimes it says across the bottom, contributions welcome. And somebody will ask me, well, how much you want for that? And I go, I don't know, 10, 20, 90, a million, whatever.
So you
I never
do it
take
by
more than a
donation
million.
also.
Oh, yeah, within reason.
Right,
I mean, if
right.
I've spent 50 hours on a stamp
Right.
or something, I'm not going to give it away for $10, or whatever. Though I have given away stuff just because I like people.
But a lot of times what I have found is when you're
that's
doing it by
French for-
donation,
French,
people
like
will
everything.
actually give you more
Oh, sometimes.
than,
yeah.
well, sometimes,
From
but
personal
it's,
experience, it's, like 9 times out of 10, if I say 10, 20, 90, a million, I'll get the 10 instead of the 20 or the 90 or the million. I've never gotten a million yet.
yeah.
You could drop off the pen sometimes,
Yeah,
Maybe
That
we should
is-
just say 15, 20.
yeah, that's it.
right.
Start
Or
up
you can
high.
start at 11,
Right.
even
The
start
bid
at
starts
11.
Right. But, I don't make
Oh,
much
man,
money,
listen,
and
gotta get back
it was
to work.
never meant to make much money. It was- Actually, I was meant to be living in
Jack of all
poverty.
trades, aren't
So
you?
what
So
kind of
that-
jewelry do you make?
Well, I make all kinds of like chainmail bracelets, like my chainmail headband, and I make magic. Oh, I could show you actually. I've been
I'm
working
just
on
curious. You've been talking about it.
Yeah.
I've been working on another chainmail snake. The last one I made was like 5.5 feet long, and I could wrap it around my waist and tie it in a knot, and I called it the American trouser snake. And there was a whole legend about trouser snakes in general. But this one's rings are
let's hear
just slightly smaller than the other ones, so the flexibility is not quite there. But after it gets a little more length,
How long does that take just to get
Um,
that far? Must
a
take
lot, because I make all the rings individually. I have this metal rod.
Hold it
and I-
up to the camera.
Oh, there's a snake in the process. It's a chainmail snake. It's not finished. It'll get longer. But,
That's
yeah,
heavy,
the
too.
original. Yeah, it's pretty heavy. It's a heavy gauge wire. It's hard to cut and makes my hands hurt. And I don't think I have enough wire here with me in
It's heavy.
North Carolina.
His works tend to be very heavy. They're very weighty. I don't know to this day. Perhaps you know what has become of the mask and the.
The helmet, that great big one with the dog spine. I think that was the one I had here because I've made several.
Right.
Well, I abandoned a lot of my stuff with a friend who had a studio, and now he always has a studio on the west side now. And apparently there was a friend of his, a woman that really liked it, and so he kind of gave it to her on loan, and apparently she still has it. And I was here a little over 2 years ago and made the brief attempt to get it back, but then I left without it. And actually, like the prominent lawyer that defended me for free on the garden thing back in '98.
You were going to give it to him, weren't you?
Yeah, I was going to give it to him for the benefit of a good friend who needed a lawyer at the time,
Right.
and it didn't work out. But what can you do? Anyway, so yeah, that was a strange trip that I was on, and I had to bail. It was getting
Pass
too
it around.
hectic here. And these are magic amulets. Camera stone from a river, 2 rivers in Wisconsin, actually.
Keeps boogers
And,
away.
yeah, it's guaranteed to
I've
ward
seen a
off
booger,
evil
do you?
spirits and demons and those possessed thereof. So should somebody possessed by a demon approach you, you can just ward them off. And if you scream Jesus, Jesus, Jesus as you pound the demon out the side of their head, you can charge them extra because everybody's making money off of Jesus, and why not you? So there's that comes from where the Eau Claire and the Chippewa rivers collide. That's where I was born, up in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, and this is another one of those. And there's one in here. A man gave me this piece of stone that he found on the Cherokee Indian Reservation, and the stone from the rivers up north. But I have a feeling that that's a bit of a dinosaur tooth.
Really?
It kind of looks like one, and I can pretend it is, even if it isn't. But It's another one of the magic amulets. And I make a variety of the chainmail bracelets. They say copper has got the qualities or the whatever to increase blood flow, and so people wear the copper bracelets for rheumatism and arthritis. And it's also associated with the goddess Venus, the goddess of love, apparently. And I was apparently born under the auspices of Venus and Mars, whatever that means. But so I figured, Mars is the god of war, and Venus goddess of love, so I'd be the warrior of love. And this is a keychain. I ran out of little keychain things, but in magic keychains, your keys will never be lost again. You might not have a clue as to where they are, but the keys will know. And, this stone is from Short Mountain Sanctuary, or Short Mountain at least, in Tennessee. It's where the fairies live, and this is a stone I picked up out of New Mexico last year. I was there for a month in February. And
It's interesting how you work this wire around as like a gate around it.
yeah, it's all spiral. It's all spiral wrap, and when I get to one end of it, the one wire goes up one side, and then the top one makes the loop and goes down the other side. So it's one piece of wire, and then I put the bends in afterwards because you have to wrap it loosely for room to have the wires going around, and then you can put the bends in. Looks like waves, so it has the flow of water in it. And it's really my style. Like if you took one of those to Prague or Berlin or Amsterdam or Beijing or wherever, somebody would see it and say, "Oh, Badger," or
Right.
something. Not that I've been to any of those places,
But people who know you might go to
Yeah.
those places, huh?
right. So that's and I make used to make a lot of pipes with bowls, but I'm down to just cigarette holders and stuff. So you just roll up a fatty in there and puff away, and when you're done, you can blow it out at people and spark them from across the room. I used to make pipes with bowls and stuff, and I signed and numbered them all and said they came with a lifetime guarantee. If the cops or the law ever confiscated them, I replaced them for free. And
There you go.
I replaced about 7 pipes around the country over the years. And
People just found you and say, hey, I'm
Yeah, like,
you're
I
running a
kinda-
new one.
I kind of travel in big circles, like Asheville.
It's nice to have you back in town.
Oh, thank you.
Badger.
It's nice to be back. I don't know
It's
how
nice
long
to
I
have
can
you on the
stay.
tea party. You
Yeah,
brought show and tell.
yeah,
You
trinkets.
still need to scoot up to get on the screen.
Oh, well, buy these trinkets.
Buy trinkets. We're not allowed to sell trinkets.
Okay.
We can,
Donate
we
your
can certainly
trinkets.
show trinkets and talk
Okay.
about trinkets. Here, I
Right.
can,
Yeah. Well, I always say it'll be worth millions when I'm dead. You can get them cheaper now. But there's thousands of people all over the country just waiting for me to die so they can buy that new Mercedes they've had their eye on. Or at least they can fill the gas tank on that new Mercedes. Yeah, something.
So you have to make a big announcement at that time.
Yeah, I wanted to get here earlier so I could shave and kind of look presentable, but the next thing I knew, I was sitting at the coffee shop talking to the very...
goofing off.
Well, I was talking to the very interesting young man that I mentioned yesterday who appeared at the Magnolia Tree.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and I ran into him. I was sitting at the coffee shop, and he came around the corner and sat down and talked in very interesting things. And the next thing I knew, it was 4:45, and so I raced up here, old as I am, climbing these mountainous roads on a bicycle covered with rocks and wire.
Yeah,
Well, let me
must
see.
add a
You
little
rode your
weight.
bicycle here from Knoxville, Tennessee?
Nashville,
Tennessee.
yeah.
That's a lot further than Knoxville, yeah.
Yeah.
You rode here from Nashville, Tennessee to come to the tea party, didn't you?
Right, I did.
Was it was it worth the ride? Was the tea worth the ride?
Yeah, the tea's great, and the English muffins. I'd ride to
Are the muffins
hell and back for your muffins.
are the muffins okay?
Oh yeah, they're fabulous.
Okay.
Yeah, fabulous. I didn't get around to eating last night. I just by the
Just
time
got
I
a 40 and went to bed.
pretty much basically yeah. I was going to get a couple of hot dogs just for something to do, but they didn't have any hot dogs, and I couldn't bear one of those microwave sandwiches thing. And then I
There's
didn't really,
that grill across the street place too.
right,
you
yeah, I
know.
didn't really want to go there. I've been there before, and
I know.
but then I thought, well, Rosetta's, they got great food and I love it, but I was really feeling like something, meaty. I had that urge for, the flesh of dead animals. And so I thought, well, I'll go up to Salsa's, but Salsa's was closed. And so it must have been after 10 or whatever. I'm not sure, maybe after 11, I'm not certain. And there used to be another little place that sold burritos up by what's the Green Sage Coffee Shop now, and that's some kind of, what is it called, Berries and Beans. I think it's a smoothie and coffee shop or something.
Yeah.
So that place didn't have, burritos, and Salsa was closed, and I didn't really want to go to the Mellow Mushroom because, it was crowded and filled, and I thought, how much can a pepperoni pizza be? And so I ended up, like I said, just basically getting a 40 and reading myself to sleep, and got to bed about 4 this morning, I think.
As did I.
Yeah, because I'm sitting under a tree and supposed to be keeping watch. So there I was watching, kind of.
Well, yeah. Even if you were asleep, if somebody struck up a chainsaw, you'd catch him.
Probably, yeah. I'm pretty light sleeping when it comes to chainsaws.
Would you maybe pass Badger some more, or someone
Well,
else perhaps?
I'm still gnawing on one, but
would like. Well, I noticed that these got like toasty. Actually, that's not bad if you'll put some of that jam on it.
yeah,
Lots
it's
of jam
good.
and butter helps.
Don't have any butter
Well,
here that I know of.
once down in Austin, Texas. This is after I did this thing in New Orleans where they called me a cult. This riverbank thing on the. So when I got to Texas, they were one cult short because David Koresh and the Waco thing had been burnt to the ground, and so Texas was one cult short. So.
So you started one.
So I became one for 10 weeks, but
Okay. That's
almost
kind of you to fill in.
Yeah, well, I figured they were one short. They had some space.
Right.
But before I started the Temple of the Giant Snail, which was the cult, there was a religion around it, of course. But
And there should have been.
I had lived with I think there was a total of 17 gutter punks in this wash below the School of the Deaf. And I was teaching them how to, weave dead branches and logs together and cover them with sheet plastic and whatever else for dry shelters. And we set up a kitchen, and I was getting them all to go up to different food shelves and bringing the food back. So we had this kitchen going. And I got upset and left once because some girl had come in there with this Rottweiler that she'd found wandering the streets and didn't have it on a leash. And I woke up one morning to it attacking my dog. So I was upset, pretty upset, and I said, screw this, and left to build the Temple of Giant Snail. However, 3 days after I left, the laws came in and kicked all these kids out of there and trashed the place, and one of the girls that was living there named Heather went off to New Orleans with her boyfriend, and she was raped and murdered. And I guess not necessarily in that order, but anyway, so after they kicked me out of the Temple of the Giant Snail, I went back to this campsite area, and here all their possessions were rotting away, and all this shredded plastic that used to be their shelters and their clothes and their food and all this stuff, including a lot of stuff that belonged to Heather. I gathered that all up at the base of this big tree next to this fallen log and created this shelter I called Heather Home. And it wasn't airtight or nothing. The plastic was just shredded and blowing in the wind like a ghost house or something. Had this altar of all their possessions, and after 3 days of working on that project, the cops came down and kicked me awake. I was sleeping, and they said, you can't sleep here. And I said, well, I was doing just fine until you kicked me. And they said, well, we were just doing our job. And I says, well, that's what every Nazi in Nuremberg said, Pally. I quit my job, you can quit yours. You don't have to walk around like a fascist. And I always say I'm mostly white, so they haven't shot me yet. And some folks get that one right away.
You won some points with those guys with that, the rap, didn't you?
Right, yeah. I think that was the first time I ever came up with that, but I've used it considerably since. And I told them that, because of them kicking down this shelter and chasing these kids away, that
So
this
they
girl...
saw the evil of their ways and quit their jobs, and
Well, hopefully,
or did they kick you out?
Well, they kicked me out, yeah. They didn't arrest me, they didn't shoot me, and, so I survived. And actually, I think I screamed at them, you may as well shoot me now, because I'll be your Spartacus, you son of a bitch, or something. I was pretty hot. I mean, when somebody kicks you awake, you wake up snapping, It's, and rightly so, I think, but, living on the street, is dangerous and scary, and you have to find really safe places to sleep, because not only do you have to deal with, you know, the psycho nuts out there, but you have to deal with people with guns and badges who will arrest you for the crime of sleeping. And in a free, you know, country, it's hard to believe that somebody could be arrested for the crime of sleeping.